All right, so episode 16 of
Lucky number
How
16.
to 500 Cats.
How to 500
16.
cats.
From the people that brought you astronaut bacon.
Don't give our trade secrets away too early.
You all can figure
it's
out what
already
that means.
Yeah, astronaut bacon and bacon dispenser has already been patented by the people at 500 Cats. So,
With that out of the way.
I'm the only one that's clearly passionate about this new project. The astronaut bacon, that is.
Do you eat it? Do you drink it? You both it.
You both it.
Comes in a tube.
It might come in a tube. Camping bacon, astronaut bacon, anytime bacon.
Anytime bacon.
I am happy. Like this will be the last episode of 2024. Thank God, but not because the recording of the episodes is arduous. It's been a long year. We did 85 events, 30 or 40 broadcasts. Like it's been a lot of work this year.
Yeah.
And it's over.
It is.
It is.
It's over. Like we're finally to the point where there's no more events this year. And then for January, February, March, it's like one event, 2 events a month, but it's like 1 per weekend at most. Like, so that makes it real easy that we're essentially overstaffed. So people aren't going back to back to back. I know our buddy Ryan High did a back-to-back-to-back at the very end of the year, or a back-to-back at least with San Antonio, and then going to 70.3 Florida, which was a successful event. And Dylan was in New Zealand, and he's back. And then me and Marcus and Mel were in the studio, and Kate were in the studio for the IRONMAN 70.3 World Championships, which overall went good. I mean, I would say it was good. It's hard. It's hard to broadcast over such. The broadcast has become gigantic, and it goes to 7 or 8 different unique endpoints. So some people want interlaced, and other people want progressive, and some people want 50 frames a second, and some people want 29 frames a second, and so we have to make this concoction of different transport streams to different places, and they all have to be on time. But all in all, it went successful.
Yeah. I mean, we're literally on the other side of the world now.
Yeah. One of the things that cracked me up was there were complaints. The event was in New Zealand, and there were complaints on the ground in New Zealand that what we were sending them was 6 seconds behind real life. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. Like, good. And they were like, well, how can we get that less? And I was like, I don't know.
Me personally, I wouldn't touch that.
Yeah. So that was video signals, plural, coming from New Zealand, then going to Boulder, and then in some cases going straight back to New Zealand for our hosts on the ground to commentate from. And one place that really stuck out was transition, and our commentators, and this isn't anything to do with them, this is the technology we use, are like, and there's the left shoe off, and now the right shoe is off. And this person was like running out of transition when they were commenting on it, just because of the different latencies of different cameras and stuff like that. But all in all, it went good. We had to do some major reconfiguration, and we are later going to talk about the equipment of the year. And I have a list of what we think the equipment of the year is. But one thing we didn't add to that list, which we'll talk about, is the video hub. It's a Blackmagic video hub, and you plug everything in your studio into it. And then it does what amounts to the cross connects on its own, like digitally. So it connects port 1 to port 19. But we had to do a massive reconfiguration leading up to race week. We had to do a massive reconfiguration, and the Bridge Live made it take seconds.
No,
Not
that
the bridge
video
hub.
hub.
The video hub.
Yeah.
I just gave away one of our favorite products. But,
Marcus, even I was a replay operator building whatever the post race recaps and stuff. And Marcus did in the morning of the first day of the 70.3 Worlds, he reconfigured one of the feeds that was coming into me off of one of the backpacks that the New Zealand guys rented on the fly. And it took him a matter of seconds.
To be fair, that's because I had set it up wrong to begin with, because I selected the same backpack twice when I meant to select two different backpacks. But, we won't go into that.
I didn't even know that. So kudos to you.
So, yeah, and I don't know that there's a lot to talk about. The people we worked with on the ground in New Zealand were awesome. We've talked about this time and time again, that it just comes down to people care. And these people genuinely cared. So that made it easy to work with. We were able to test thoroughly ahead of time. So then we didn't have any transport issues of getting signals from New Zealand to Boulder and then back out to the rest of the world. And a lot of that goes to them doing their part. But AVP, audio video people. And kudos to them. Yeah, they were great. And then obviously the IRONMAN team did a great job. And all in all, and I'll go around and ask you guys, what would you give the broadcast as a letter grade? And Mel, I'll start with you. Overall, everything. Not just the stuff we deal with. Package deal.
Package deal, I'm going to give it... I feel like I want to give it between a B and a B minus, because I think there's a lot of things behind the scenes that we were talking about, like the number of places that we now are sending the signal to. And just, we did 2 days of broadcasting back to back on the other side of the world. I'm giving us a B. I'm going to give us a B.
Marcus?
Honestly, I would give day one and probably an A minus, maybe a B plus, but probably an A minus. And then day two, I'd give probably a C plus.
Well, that's a big difference.
Yeah, so that's the difference between the women's race.
Yep, women's race was day one.
On Saturday, which was our Friday, and then the men's race, which was Sunday. And Dylan, go ahead. I know you were in New Zealand, and so you actually weren't as involved in the broadcast as you would think when we send somebody all the way to New Zealand, but you were supplying like the technology to the broadcast to do a lot of the broadcasting. But you saw some of it. What would you give it?
Yeah, I did get the pleasure of watching more of the second day men's race, just because things have kind of ironed out details, and spent more time at the finish line watching it on the Jumbotron. And I'm I guess it sounds like I might be a harsher critic as an outside viewer. I think I would say a C plus on that day. And that's just a package deal of watch, because that's all I was, as I was watching it as a viewer on a Jumbotron live. Which isn't a bad score in my opinion.
But should be higher for a world championship.
Should be higher for a world championship.
I'm going to go with B minus myself. Like Marcus, I think you nailed it. That the women's race, which was won by a friend of ours, Taylor Nibb, dominated, ruined the broadcast because she didn't go wire to wire, because I don't think she was like first out of the water, but she dominated it. She took off on the bike, and as much as I'm so amazed by Kat Matthews to reel her in a whole bunch, but it never was like she was going to catch Taylor, and who knows what Taylor had left if she did catch her. So Taylor dominated, which is a friend of ours who lives here in Boulder, Colorado. So that's always nice that, we root for a lot of different people, but when one of the people you're rooting for goes out and has such a big day again. But I would give it a B minus also. And the reason I brought this up is our friends at Slowtwitch wrote an article grading the broadcast. And these are friends of ours. And they did not reach out for comment. Which I'm not saying they should, because they're doing what you don't see a lot of just pure journalism, and they're saying, here's our take on it. And they gave the show a B-. And they broke it down to why, and I agreed with most of everything they said, was an accurate assessment of. And so if you want to go see that, you can go to slowtwitch.com, and I think the article is called like grading the Ironman 70.3 World Championship broadcast. But I would have liked for that to have been a B+ or an A- both
Well,
days.
I think, do you agree? I felt frustrated that the women's race was it was a good broadcast, and that we said to ourselves, day 2 we'll up it, and it's going to be even better for day 2. And then it just wasn't. Like there was a lot
of conversation about that on the ground in New Zealand, just from staff, from people. And it's kind of a dilemma that's really hard to win, a battle that's really hard to win, because you want to give everyone that, like both genders, a fair and equal opportunity, of course. And, there's on one hand, like you kind of want to give ladies first, right? That's kind of a cliche thing that I think is probably the natural way we look at it. Let the women go first and open up this incredible event and see it, like put the spotlight on the women. But then the other hand to that is, it doesn't matter if it's just a broadcast. It's even just comes down to operations and the city. You got to do it once, and then you're practiced. The second day is just going to be better. People are going to be calmer. All of the dignitaries speaking and opening the event is going to be better. The sound is going to be better. It's just a natural consequence of doing an event twice in a row. And so it's like, people recognize that, but they're like, what's the right choice? Maybe the right choice is to alternate who goes first at different events, different years. I don't know.
I think so.
I think so too, because
I understand the concern that people will watch if the men go first, people will watch the men's day and move on in life. So I definitely understand that concern, but also, like you're saying, Dylan, we get this opportunity to do a rinse and repeat the very next day. So the chances are there's going to be upgrades. And then sometimes people are like, oh, you guys did this for the men. Well, had we realized, we would have done it for the women too, but the women went first, and that's where we learned about this mistake and stuff like that. So it's an interesting conversation, and it's a never-ending conversation in triathlon, the equality between men and women. It's gone on for years and years and years, and I know as a company, we've worked really hard to make our coverage equal and stuff like that, and so, sometimes it just doesn't pan out. I will say this. Doing the cut down, so we cut down the broadcast into a TV show. It was so much easier not having to try to make the cut down equal men and women, because we had a men's day and a women's day. So each cut down was just a single gender. And that was made it a lot easier when we're trying to make these cut downs. Sometimes the women's race is way better than the men's race, so you cut it down and you want to show a little bit more of it because it's better, but you can't show too much because then people are like, hey, you didn't cover the men's race, and then more so vice versa. But anyway, back to scoring. Let's score Slowtwitch now. No, I'm just kidding. I think and my friend at Slowtwitch, I sent him a text message. I'll just call him out, Eric Wynn. And I sent him a text message that was like B- WTF. And then I don't think he's aware that, like, of a conversation like this where we completely agree with what he said. But he thought I was upset, and he called me back yesterday. And when he called me back, I was like, can't talk right now because we were skiing. But then I called him back, and he was just like, are you? And I was like, no, dude, we agree with what you said. We want to do better in the future. But all in all,
are we going to talk about our own, like our mistake board, or is that not for the podcast?
No, that was like my favorite thing. And Dylan, you weren't around for this. Is we had
but still made the board.
We had a whiteboard that's like the size of a big screen TV, so a big whiteboard, like 60 inches or something like that. and we wrote everybody that's involved in the broadcast on it. Not everybody, because there's dozens.
Not
and dozens.
individual like camera operators, but the production team on the ground.
Yeah, and then we each had our own column, and we scored everybody's mistakes. And just kind of, and it was kind of just like mob rules where people were like, no, I didn't hit that button, and everybody else is like, yeah, you did. So kind of embarrassed that I won day one
by a lot.
Of mistakes.
Yeah, and I sit in a position, not to like say, but I sit in a position that's easily apt to make more mistakes or more visible mistakes. Because like if you're doing the replay and you make a mistake, you can just redo it, hopefully before anybody sees it. But when you're doing the switching, it all goes out live. But that made for a lot of fun.
Yeah.
That made for a lot of fun. And like one of them was a graphic that I don't make graphics, but I had made one graphic this summer and it was just a little bit the wrong size. And we should have known. And we put it up and it didn't cover up the graphic that was under it. So there, these aren't big mistakes like we went off the air, but they're things like that.
And the graphic one is my favorite mistake that happened because Dave had made it earlier in the summer. He puts up the graphic. It doesn't cover the stuff below it. So that's a mistake on him. We mentioned it to Dylan and Dylan's like, I'll take care of it. I'll fix it. It's updated. It's ready for you to use. And before the show starts, I'm looking at it. I'm like, Dave, that doesn't look right. Here, let's put it up real quick and see. He puts it up and it didn't fix it because Dylan didn't know what the problem was. He just thought we didn't have it. So we gave Dylan a mistake on day 2 because of that.
Yeah, I was definitely unfairly judged without representation of myself.
And you know what? There's a perfect example of a mistake that happened on day 1 that we learned on behalf of the women's race, and we were able to prevent from happening the next day. So it's not like there was any kind of favoritism or anything like that. But had the genders been switched and the men went first, that mistake would have happened on the men. And I'll bet not a lot of people noticed it either, that it was a graphic that goes on top of another graphic because we're lazy that way and smart because we make the graphic that goes on top a little bigger. But in this case, it was a little smaller. So,
yeah.
That's what happens when you change little details like over and over and over and over all season. Then there's like a bunch of iterations of stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. And version 1 and version 2 are identical.
Yes. You need version 5.5 final_final.
Yes.
So we kept score of mistakes, and then I don't even remember who won the next day, the men's day, if it was me or not. But I cut mine in half. Yeah, which I was happy.
I don't think you won. I think. Did anyone take
one
a photo
of them? I should have
day?
disputed that there was a frame that got put up on screen, and it was a frozen frame of our hosts. So it wasn't anything, but it was up there for 5 frames. And I don't see how I could have put it up and brought it down in 5 frames. And we have had this malfunction before that I'm blaming it on. But I didn't dispute it in time, so I took it.
Yeah,
and you know what? I got a gold star.
You got a gold? You gave yourself a gold star?
No, I didn't give it. Kate gave me a gold star, and it was concurred by those in the studio for helping with some traffic issues on the radio.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Well, I'm not going to say it here because it was not.
You yelled at Matt Lieto.
Hey!
Look, her
just
camera
Lieto,
froze there.
It was everybody. If you remember, it was like AVP was on our channel. Mark was talking. We were talking. Lieto was talking. We were trying to throw to something, and it was just a moment of pure chaos. And I was just like, everyone, time out. Stop talking.
It was
beautiful.
Break.
It was truly beautiful.
All in all, good. I think again we would have preferred a higher grade, but we were successful. Dylan, you were in New Zealand. How did it end up for you in New Zealand? Like the one thing I want to hear about, Dylan was doing great at checking in until the last couple of days, but customs. I know we had a scare going in because we got a message like, hey, they're going to hate your internet equipment. But we created the customs declarations properly, and for the most part slid right through customs. But then coming back, how did that all work?
Coming back was uneventful. It's kind of boring and uneventful in a good way, I suppose, in that nothing happened. I mean, the process that we have ended up settling on or leaning on more so is the temporary import bond, TIB, where we essentially prepay the taxes that we would have injected into the New Zealand economy should we have sold these goods. And then when we take them back out of the country, we get that money back with a little bit of a fee taken off. And the way that should go is, you get to customs and they confirm and say, hey, here's everything that you said you took and what you brought back. So here's your refund. And I think we got our refund like while we were driving to the airport. So we're like, well, cool. I guess we are taking everything back into the States now. So it was smooth. I think what helped, again, I think I said this on the last episode, was having a relationship with a real human being at the New Zealand customs office. And she knew our situation. She knew she knew everything. So when we said, hey, you checked in, hey, we're leaving today, I think she just hit the button and we were on our way. So a lot of prep work that, on one hand you could look at it and be like, well, you didn't have to do it. But on the other hand, we just followed the rules, and if we knew we were following the rules, like with a little bit more advanced prep work than like on the way to the airport to New Zealand, it would have been really smooth, and pretty painless. So I definitely recommend following the rules and doing that. And then you just don't have to worry. Yeah,
for an event, following the rules, because like if you guys had gotten stopped or they wouldn't let you bring all the internet equipment in, imagine what would happen to the event. And I think gone are the days of us like trying to smuggle stuff into Canada that we used to always do. And I'm talking about like audio and video equipment. But
okay, hold on. Time out. HR here. HR. There is no smuggling happening. We have done everything by the rules in Canada.
Yeah, not anymore. I was saying back in 2009, IRONMAN Canada, we were the ones doing the merchandise, and we did all the custom stuff, but we didn't realize, you got to declare every single pair of socks and everything. And we paid this huge bond, and then we sold, and this is what made it complicated. We sold a ton of stuff, and then we brought it back. So what you sold, you end up paying like import-export taxes on, and what you returned, you don't. But it was an ordeal, and just doing it right is the way to go about it for sure.
Now, Your Honor, if you look back at what I said was do it right.
To be clear, and this is for another episode, the incident we're talking about, I did my time. I got deported for 2 years from Canada, and I did my time. But it wasn't for the import-export stuff, and this is, again, by doing it by the rules. I was working for a Canadian company, which means I needed a work permit.
And now we only work for a U.S. company.
We work for U.S. companies,
no matter where we are in the world.
So, but that's a story for another time.
I would just like to say that was back before the internet was really like a place like it is now. There was a lot of gray area. We were unsure what we were doing.
True.
Now, not the same. Not the same.
Now, Dylan, you and Ryan actually, I think it was Ryan who said this, and I can't remember. He might have even said it on the last episode. I can't remember, or if this was a separate conversation, but he was like, just call customs where you're going and ask them, because they know, they'll tell you, because y'all had Googled and researched and tried to do it right, but didn't find the one line on one website that said, you have to do it this way. And so I feel like you guys tried to do it right. And the reason you had to do it last minute is you just didn't find the correct information when you searched. And I believe the recommendation is call customs.
Call customs. Yeah. That's definitely the biggest.
Get a broker. Yeah.
That's the biggest takeaway, because you you don't know what you don't know. So it's really hard to fill out the sheet you don't know exists. So if you just call a human and say, hey, what sheet do I need to fill out? They'll be like, here. And I'm sure it's never painless. I'm sure it's never painless as long as you just know what you're doing and when and why. And then have a paper trail of like, yeah, your customs person told me to do this. And I think that even went a long way in New Zealand customs when we landed in Auckland, where everyone was super nice. The agents, they're not TSA there, but they're customs agents were just like, yeah, you did everything right. Thank you very much for being prepared, and send us on our way.
Nice.
So we obviously had a different perspective we talked a lot about like our setup in New Zealand and how it went, how we thought it was going to work out. And it was a whole lot of like crossing our fingers of, is it going to work on race day? Cause we were set up really early, but, we did have a chance, as we were setting up to sit down and catch up with a good friend, Heather Fuhr. She has, been around the sport for a long time as, not only a pro triathlete. I mean, she's even a 1997 Ironman world champion. But she stuck around, as Ironman staff for VIP. So yeah, we got to sit down and get to know her a little more.
All right. We have our second guest of the weekend, the one and only Heather Fuhr. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Busy weekend for you.
You as well. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing here in New Zealand this weekend.
So I am here with our Ironman World Championship team. We're putting on the 24 VinFast Ironman 70.3 World Championship. So working with that team, we've been working on this event for a long time, since 2018. And so kind of fun to finally see it coming to fruition here.
Yeah, and then more specifically, I know you have many hats, one of them being VIP. What else? What do you personally oversee here in New Zealand?
So, yes, I do oversee the VIP program, and then our athlete services team as well. And that includes pro athletes. So, yeah, kind of those, we kind of call it the special services little area.
Sure. And tell us a little bit about your history. You used to race. You used to be really good at racing.
in another lifetime. Yeah.
You have some flags with your name on it in Kona. So tell us about, a little bit about the history of Heather.
Yeah. So I raced professionally in triathlon for about 18 years. Grew up in Canada, and in a very, very small town where sports was kind of what you did. There was nothing else to do. So you signed up for everything you possibly could. And very soon found out that I really liked the individual sports, more so than the other team sports. And so running became what I liked because I liked it more than I liked playing baseball or soccer or stuff like that. So, at a young age, we had the opportunity to do sports. And so I did. And, so started, at a young age, just being involved in sports, but was a runner mostly through high school and university, and ran track and cross country there. But really, got to a point in my running where I just was not getting any better and wasn't enjoying it as much. And Rock, my husband, he was a triathlete back then. So this is a long time ago. This is before you were born, easily well before you were born. So Rock and I met in high school. And so when at the time he had started, he was a swimmer. I was a runner. And he sort of ventured into triathlon when he was 17, I think. And so I would go watch him, and I would think that it was ridiculous. Like, why would anybody want to do that? Because I couldn't swim. So
you didn't know how to, or you just weren't
I could swim maybe like a length of the pool. It wasn't pretty, but I wouldn't drown, but I was not a good swimmer. And so went and watched him. And then, like I said, my running kind of got to a point where I was just not getting any better. And I was like, oh, try maybe ride my bike a little bit, right? Something different. And then there was this little race that I thought, okay, well, I could try like a little triathlon. And up in Canada in the winter or the spring, it's cold, right? So this little triathlon was like an indoor triathlon where you could swim in the pool and then you'd ride on the trainer and then you would run around a 200-meter indoor track, right? Not all that exciting, but but it was a goal. And my brother and I, we took like a swim class so we could learn to swim and so we could swim that distance. And I think it was 1 kilometer that we had to swim, right? So not super far. And did it. And I loved it, even though it was like kind of weird, right? Like an indoor race. I loved it. And kind of that was a start. Maybe that's when I started to,
I really identify with the single sport thing because that's me 100%. I've never like really identified and been able to enjoy things like soccer and playing football, and I've always been a swimmer and a biker and a runner and myself, not really those three together. So I identify with that a lot because sometimes I feel like it's like two different kinds of people, that some like to have the team sport thing and some people just like to push themselves, and it's interesting.
I definitely think that. I mean, I always felt in the team sports that there was so much, I never wanted to let the team down. I never wanted to be that person that wasn't good enough for the team. But when it's you and you're the individual person, you're only letting yourself down, right? And so it was, I don't know, I just enjoy it.
Well, and there's no one else to blame, right? Like if you don't succeed, it's because you made, whatever the case may be.
Exactly. It's all on you and the rewards and the failures, and I think that's the beauty of it.
Totally. So you did this little sprint indoor triathlon. When did you know you're like, hey, I might be good at this?
So I don't know that I ever did really, but, from that point, so then did a few little triathlons here and there throughout, we call it university, but, college or whatever. And then, graduated, had an accounting degree and was going to be an accountant. And that's what I was going to do. So I went to, worked at an accounting firm and started to article to get my CPA or CA, whoever calls it what, I can't remember. And Rock was a year behind in school. So he was still, going to school. And so when he finished, he was the one that was going to try and go be a pro triathlete. And he was a pro. And so I was like, wow, hey, that sounds kind of fun. I'd done a few races by then and it was like, okay, I'm doing all right. And then he's like, well, I'm going to go somewhere warm and train for the winter. And I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So I went to my boss and I said, can I just take a little leave of absence and go? And I'll just go and I'll do this triathlon thing and I'll get it out of my system and then I'll be back, and that was 1989 and never went back.
You're still on leave.
I'm still on leave. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And then, and then it just went from there. Rock and I would go. So we chose San Diego is where we chose to go because that's kind of where the hotbed of triathlon was at that time. We went down, we would drive down for a few months of the winter and then go back up to Canada in the summer, did that a couple of years. And then by that point, the racing was coming along.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like just progressed from there.
And here you are.
And here I am.
What keeps you coming? Because I feel like, not even just triathlon, but anything. Like when somebody is, let's say they're in the marching band in high school, not many people do an activity and devote their life to it. And then like when they graduate high school, stay in the activity. It's like, okay, time to move on. You're still here. You're still here at all the big races and heavily involved. That it must speak a lot to what it is to you.
It does. You know what? I think you learn pretty quickly that it's a lifestyle and it's the community that's pretty cool. And so that definitely has kept kept me around. And I was super fortunate that when I stopped racing professionally, I was able to slot right in and work with IRONMAN. And initially I was working as the pro liaison. And so, that was a way for me to like be still involved in the sport, but not racing. I stopped racing when I knew I didn't have it in me anymore. And I was happy with that. And I was very content with that. And I walked out, actually the last race in Kona, I didn't finish and I walked off the course. And I was okay with that. And I knew that it was a time, that the time had come, and it was fine. I was good with that. And the reason I knew I was good with that is because I never had any FOMO. I never wanted to be out there. When I started racing, when I started working, everybody was like, don't you want to be out there? And I was like, no, I don't. I really don't. So I knew it was the right time, the right decision. Yeah.
And that goes back to the individual sport thing. Like only you know that. Like, other people might, whatever, especially today with social media and stuff, they can speculate, but you're like, hey, this is the time. This is it. I'm good with this. I can retire and be okay with it.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're right. It's the individual sport thing. If you have a team around you, there's a different dynamic. There's a different decision to make. But when it's you and you have to pour your heart and soul in it to be good or to finish or just to be out there, and you're not willing to do that anymore, then it's time to hang up the hat, right? And so for me, it was time. And again, like I said, it was the perfect timing because I just knew it was when I wasn't I wasn't willing to put the time in anymore. It just was, just was the time.
Yeah. What was your favorite part about racing?
Fortunately, I got to go to a lot of great places and race a lot of really cool races. And so, every time I raced, it was something different that I enjoyed. I mean, I came from a running background. So for me, I was always playing catch up. And so I was always, out there and trying to run fast and trying to catch up. And so that was kind of the Heather way of racing. You had to, like, well, how far back is she? How many minutes does she have to catch up? But I think what I like the most is just that, being able to go to all those cool places, meet all those people, and just race on different courses.
The people is definitely something that we talk about a lot, that, whether it's local people in cool places like Topa or just people of the triathlon community, meeting people's cool.
It is.
We're fortunate.
It's a good community. You have like-minded people. I mean, triathletes are very type A, I mean, it can be intense, but
we all know rock.
We all know rock, and then we all know, a lot of triathletes. And so, but it's a very good community, and meeting those people is definitely a highlight.
Well, I don't want to take too much of your time, but we definitely work with each other enough that we like to have a few survey questions.
Sure.
That we have for you.
Okay. This is.
And we don't fluff it. We want the first number that comes to your head.
Okay.
0 is low, 5 is high.
Okay.
So question number 1, how well does BCC Live communicate with you through your planning and execution stages?
5.
Wow, 5.
Woo!
Okay.
All right.
5.
Okay, number 2, how satisfied are you with BCC Live's ability to handle last-minute changes or requests?
5 for sure. You guys are awesome.
I got to be honest.
Yeah.
You and your team, though, might be one of the best at not doing that to us in the first place. Sometimes it's the opposite. We know your whole season's worth of needs, like in January.
Yeah, but you guys are great. I mean, there's always stuff that comes up. You know what I mean? And we're always like, oh my gosh. And I'm probably going to be asking you something a little later. But
oh boy.
But there's always stuff that comes up, and you guys are great. Always there.
Okay, number 3, how would you rate the professionalism of the BCC Live staff?
I'm going to give you a 5 too. And I think what I love about you guys is you're yourselves. And to me, that's being professional. It's not being anything other than what is truly yourself. Being
yourself is professional. That's good.
I'm gonna remember that one.
Okay. Maybe I take that back.
How would you rate the technical expertise of our production team?
Awesome. Again, guys, you're number 5. Yeah. I mean, you've always been able to solve anything that we have, and it's a world that I know nothing about. And so it's always nice to have people that's their world, and they can easily fix the problems that we have.
Cool. This might be one of our most glowing reviews. How likely are you to recommend us as a production company?
Always, absolutely. Number 5, for sure.
All right.
Perfect
Yeah,
score.
we got a
Perfect
perfect
score.
score. Yeah.
That's the first time.
Yeah.
We had Matt Van Veen on. He gave us a 0 because he didn't want to recommend us to anybody.
Well, there's different bars set here, I think. Yeah.
But it's easy to accommodate you and your team. I mean, you guys take care of us. You feed us. You give us backpacks. You let us into the banquets and sit up front. And it makes
Hang out
us,
with our families when we're out racing. And yeah, we're super grateful for everything you guys do to help us. And even though, again, we might give you the more last minute requests than you ask us.
No, I don't think so. But to the point, you guys are part of the Ironman family. And I think that's the great part about this sport.
Yeah. So lastly, what's next? What do you got? What's on the horizon for you?
So big stuff, for me. This is actually my last race that I will be working. So super excited for next things that are going to happen. Not sure what that is, but just going to take a break and really try to enjoy life and get back some balance. But definitely will always have that triathlon part, Ironman part in my heart.
For sure. You won't be too far away.
No.
Yeah.
We'll see you. We'll see you around. That's for sure. Yeah. Well, Heather, thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. It was a
Thanks for taking
pleasure.
the time. Yeah.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Awesome.
Okay.
I love Heather Fuhr.
She's the best.
She's somebody I've worked with since my very beginning, so 20 years, and she's literally got a perfect track record of just doing the right thing and being a good person, and she always looks out for us, so that means a lot. So thanks, Heather.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Love
Heather.
you, Heather.
Okay, we're going to wrap up here in a second, but real quick, one of the things we were talking about earlier in the show was this Blackmagic video hub, and it definitely is a piece of equipment this year, although we just got it in December, so we really haven't used it much, but it's saved a ton of time already. We know it's going to revolutionize the way we patch things or connect things in our studio. But a couple others that I want to shout out is like everything LiveU.
Yeah.
Just LiveU in general. LiveU support, LiveU hardware, LiveU software, LiveU sales. Like they really, I feel like they like us. It's the weirdest thing that they just seem like they go so far out of their way to make sure we're successful. And it is expensive stuff, but it really helped us stand out this year as top broadcasters all around the world. We took this LiveU stuff and it just works. It works everywhere in the world. And if it isn't working, you call support and they say, try it now, and it's fixed, and they answer their phone. So everything LiveU, I think without a doubt, is one of what I would call the equipment of the year. But in their case, it's like equipment and vendor mashed into one.
Strong agree.
Yeah, and everyone here uses the LiveU stuff every day. It's an integral part of not only our broadcasting, but like all our transport streams and things like that. We're starting to use more and more LiveU, even though it's a big smorgasbord of different pieces of equipment. But another one would be the AJA Bridge Live, and that's like a encoder decoder box, super, super expensive. These things are, tens of thousands of dollars, but they do everything. They do it right. And then a reoccurring theme you're going to hear is support. Is that when you call them, you talk to these same people and they go, oh, yeah. How'd that turn out? And what can we do here? And yeah, what do you want to do with this? And what do you want to do with that? And you get real high-end support. And sometimes in broadcasting, there's a lot of jargon and things like that. And these guys will just answer all the questions. So the AJA Bridge Live, super cool piece of equipment. And we used it. We have two of them, and we used them at like 50-60% capacity, both of them, for New Zealand, and they just saved the day. We talked about all these weird formats and all these different transmission streams we have to send around the world, and the Bridge Lives do about half of it for us, but they do a really good job.
Yeah. Yeah, they're amazing. They're really technical. I would say that it's not like we always talk about like things being manual or no manual. They're definitely manual. Like you're going to have to look through the manual to do them, but they're so much more capable than I feel like anything else we've ever used.
I think they make us better broadcasters.
Yeah.
Sorry, Dylan. I also would like to say that when I talk to their tech support to just kind of get that idea on CPU, GPU load, like how are we against like what the machine can do, the thing that I really realized is that we were barely scratching the surface on the performance that device can do.
My favorite is the last time we talked to them and they were like, oh, you know what? Theoretically, it can do like 187 streams at once. Tell you what, why don't we'll fire ours up and we'll test and see if it can actually do that.
Yeah,
with 63, just in case
63,
you wanted the real number.
They're on our side for sure. Like, and Marcus, you made a good point. You need the manual. This is a device that I would say isn't super user friendly, but it really isn't designed to be user friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you want user friendly, this device was never meant for that. It was meant for you to be able to fully customize every aspect of a transport stream, every single little detail. It's made for you to be able to customize it. So you do have to have a ton of background knowledge, and it's helped me with my background knowledge. Now, when people are throwing jargon at me, it's probably in the Bridge Live, and I can accommodate what people are asking for. So kudos to AJA in the Bridge Live and their amazing support. Another one, which Mel, you mentioned this one, and it's a super cool device, but I don't know that it's like equipment of the year, but we got a new Blackmagic ATEM switcher, and this one's a little bit bigger. I think it's got like 10 inputs or 8 inputs and outputs, and it definitely was really user-friendly. Like we took it out of the box and took it to a show and did a broadcast with it without any knowledge, any studying, because it's so fundamentally built the way all switchers are built, and all the buttons have the same terminology as like even our TriCaster has. So it was really easy to use. So in that sense, absolutely.
But I brought it up because that device gives us another way to do a full production in the field with limited resources. Not, we didn't have to have somebody sitting in the studio. And so I just felt like gave us another way to do a higher end broadcast with the entire team being in the field.
Yeah, and Blackmagic, if I was going to give them a tagline, it just works. Like you take this stuff out of the box, you plug it in, and whatever you bought it for, it's ready to go. Except they don't ship power cords with their stuff. It's so weird.
Oh my gosh.
It's
so
like we hope
frustrating.
you like this multi-$1,000 thing, but F you. Go find a power cord.
Go buy your own.
Finding a power
D-Lug.
cord at BCC is like it's a half a day project.
Well, you got to take it out of something else, right? That's
just take it from the laptop. No one needs that laptop today.
Take
and then
it
never
from
bring it back.
something that somebody's not using that very second, and let them figure it out.
Yeah, that
Trickle
TriCaster
down.
Don't tell 'em.
You don't need that. Just pull that power cable out. They'll figure it out when they come back.
So, and then the funniest thing, and then we'll wrap this baby up, for the equipment of the year was a piece of equipment that was an absolute shoo-in to be the single piece of equipment of the year. And then we found it had a problem last week, and it got benched.
Yeah.
And then we ran out of
benched.
hardware, so it got put back in the game. It isn't going to be the equipment of the year, but we had a TriCaster Mini Go. And this is a little box, like half the size of a shoebox, that's super powerful video switching and production and stuff like that. But we found a problem the way it was processing audio. We found a problem, and even though nobody had really noticed it before, we were like, we can't go forward with this problem. So we said, okay, we'll move on without it. And then we had a last second request for a custom feed, which we needed a new video switcher. And we're like, well, you know what? Beggars can't be choosers, and it went back in the game. But a cool little device, really expensive, $5,000 for this little shoebox thing, but almost equipment of the year. Almost.
Well, what's so funny is the thing we were talking about, the Blackmagic 40x40, and how easy it was to move things around last minute. It was because we had to take the Mini out of service. So all of a sudden, the Mini had like 6 outputs essentially, and we took all 6 of those outputs and routed them to a different device because we had that Blackmagic device installed. And then whenever we reinstated the Mini, we used a different feed in order to that we couldn't have used for the original purpose of the Mini, but it got rid of the audio issue because it just came straight into the Mini.
Right. That's right. I forgot that we did get rid of the audio issue
We did.
For its new purpose. But now I don't know what the future holds for the TriCaster Mini Go. I could see that on a trailer out on the road to produce like in-person events. But all in all, good year, good equipment. I think one of the hardest things for us as a company is the amount of money we continually invest in equipment, and that just knocks your profit down. And so we've had 2 less than profitable years, but we've had massive equipment investments. And for the most part, I don't know there's anything like on the list that we bought this and it's trash. I mean, small things, but nothing like that we spent a bunch of money on and it's just sitting in the closet unused. So all in all, good investment.
Well, and I think we
Agreed.
like to be cutting edge, bleeding edge. So like we like to try the new stuff out, and sometimes they're a winner and sometimes they're a loser.
Yeah, without a doubt. And this year I think was a good year for upgrades because most of it was good. And then the last thing that has nothing to do with broadcasting, but the DJI Aveda 2, which is an FPV drone, is just we're going to figure out how to get it into broadcasting, but it is just wildly fun. It just goes so fast. It flies exactly where you tell it to do. It is kind of shaky video, but flying it is like flying an airplane. We do have some events next year that we're planning to use an FPV drone. So that's one that definitely gets an honorable mention. But I want to say thanks to you guys and all our staff. Like, we really had a successful year. I think you guys would agree that it was our best year to date. Our staff is the best it's been ever before. We have all good people. Ryan's not on here right now, but he gave the broadcast an A+. So I wanted to add that in. But all our staff, Kate, John Michelle, Ryan High, Tom, Lane. So all good stuff. Corey, Eddie, Julian, Michael the Files, and Eric. So all good people. Mel's lipping the names of the staff to me.
Well, and she was mouthing it, and I was going, "Who's she saying?"
I was just trying to make sure we love our team. We have an amazing group of people, and we don't want anybody to ever feel left out.
And a lot of them are fragile, and if you hadn't mentioned their name there, you'd have to answer to it.
Did we mention Ryan Kelly? I want to make sure we throw that in there.
Did we
again, in case
mention
we didn't?
Ryan High, Jean-Michel, Tom, Kate, Dylan, Marcus, Dave, Julian, Michael, Eric, Corey, Eddie?
I think I got them right.
I think you got them all. You might have missed
Ryan
Kate in the
Kelly.
original list.
No.
Perfect. Then you got them all.
No. We love
Well,
you guys.
anyway, and to our clients, like,
Go ahead and list them all.
Do you want me,
Yeah.
I was going to say, do you want me to go through
no, but
the
I
whole
think it'd be
list?
remiss not to say a big thanks to our friend Mark Mossbach at IRONMAN, who is like one of the people we directly report to when it comes to broadcasting. And this guy, I would like to see his reaction if you smash his foot with a hammer, because he's so calm and he has such a positive demeanor. So, and I don't want to leave. There's so many people at IRONMAN that we could mention, but a lot of the broadcasting that we do with him, and he's such a positive guy and stuff like that. So my hat goes off to him, and we can talk next year about all our clients. I think we're such snotty little people that we don't work for crappy clients. So all our clients are good.
And for Mark Mossback, I think he is totally chill, except for when the interviews happen
When he says,
during a
"Right
live
now."
show.
Right now.
Meow. So I think that wraps it up. Happy holidays to everybody. And we'll leave you with, have we already used the Right Meow song?
I don't know if we have.
Well, if we've already used it on a podcast, here it is again.
Enjoy.
Enjoy. Right Meow.
Right